Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to Bite Me. I'm Brooke, the Truthful Groomer. How we doing? Are we kind of, I know some of us are experiencing some real mental whiplash here. We went from pretty much just like red, conservative, total mind fuck to just polar opposite into sort of this blue piece. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Some friends of mine are like, well, aren't you concerned that more hasn't been done yet? And I'm like, what are you talking? They've been in there. Kamala and Biden been in there all of 5 minutes. You got to give them a little bit of time to reverse, 4 years of just god-awful decision-making before we make any judgments here, I'm sure that they had a lot to do, quite a bit on their plate. Today on Bite Me, what I wanted to talk about in Season 1, Episode 14 is the things that we don't talk about. Tolerance. Recently, I posted some videos, like I do, one of them was of a woman at a bar making racial slurs towards two Native American women who were minding their own business. And then I went ahead and posted the Walmart videos of my partner being harassed. I don't really believe in cancel culture, so I had some residual feelings about those videos, but you also have to understand that, what do? You got to say something, but we're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about the things we tolerate and what that means to tolerate them. And the uncomfortable truths that we don't talk about, that maybe we're not holding ourselves responsible enough to see, that are right there in front of our faces, that we're passing on to somebody else and hoping that resolves it. And that's kind of like, you're guilty by association, something with proximity. Like you're a bystander to wrongdoing. So the things we don't talk about, that would be like black women's hair care products being locked up behind the glass at Walmart. These are products that are the same price as other products. Why are they behind a glass case? That is racism. That is systemic oppression. The drunk man or woman making racist remarks at a bar. Okay, it's a person with a complexion being followed around, somebody who isn't white. These are the things we don't talk about. These are the things we act like we don't see. These are the things that we excuse. And you can't deny that you've ever been in that position before. I know I have. And you think to yourself, I don't know if we necessarily think, well, it's not my problem, but we definitely think to ourselves, well, you always in the back of your mind you think to yourself, well, it's not my place, someone else will handle it. But if not us, who? And if not now, when? You say to yourself, it just happened to be a person of color they were following. It just happened to be a girl or a guy that was drunk. These are excuses. Ignoring it is tolerating it. And if you don't think so, then you're inadvertently a part of the problem. Now, all that would be easy to say that, well, this is just the way it's always been. You can pass blame onto somebody else or to the business owner or the broken judicial system, but the fact of the matter is, we are all people on this globe together. Okay, we all got to be here. There shouldn't be any psychological reason not to help your fellow man or woman, and yet we don't. Why? Because of shame? Because of guilt? Because of fear or retaliation? We don't say anything out of self-preservation, which in and of itself is socially constructed fear, like prompted by a sort of internalized racism or sexism and the like. That's that internalized misogyny I talk so much about. It's so insidious, you don't even know that it's inside of you. And I know I've said that before, but that's the truth. You think, what will my peers think? This person's a stranger. I don't want to cause a scene. Or the worst one, this always happens and nothing ever changes, so what's the point? That's the point. These are all excuses, hence the lack of change. But to ignore it all is actually a gross affront to the human race itself. And it's intensely bad karma, you guys. What makes you too good to do anything? What makes you too good to say anything? What makes you too small? You aren't. You're not. According to brainfoodblog.com, there's something called the bystander effect. The bystander effect is defined as when we don't give help or offer aid to someone because we believe someone else is going to. The obvious problem then arises. If everyone thinks this way and displaces the responsibility onto another person, no one will ever help anyone. How would you like to be that person that's getting followed around? How would you like to be that person that's sitting at a bar getting harassed? You really ought to put yourself in these people's situations, I'm guilty of it too. There's plenty of times when I sat around and did nothing. And in my younger years, I'm ashamed to admit that there was plenty of times when I was the perpetrator. You can't, it's almost like telling a lie by omission. It's like, well, they didn't ask, so I didn't tell them. That's not a lie. It's like, well, they didn't ask for help, so I didn't give it to them. That's such a cop-out. It's such bullshit. Is it not your civic duty to help these people? Like, what makes the person who is perpetrating the act any better or worse than you? What makes you any better or worse than them not to say anything? And if we get right down to it, guys, what's really going to happen to you? Somebody's going to tell you to shut up. Somebody's going to tell you to fuck off. Do you really want people dying in this lifetime knowing that you didn't have anybody's back? Stand for something. If nothing else, be loyal to yourself and your integrity and your values. Now, to think that we can have all of these bystanders not doing anything and the situation gets worse and worse and worse sounds pretty grim, doesn't it? Well, I think we got there the last 4 years. It doesn't have to be this way. There's also something called the diffusion of responsibility, which is defined by the Very Well Mind website. It's a psychological phenomenon in which people are less likely to take action when in the presence of a large group of people. So if that's you and you feel guilty about it, just change it, okay? You're not a tree. Get up and move. You can change these things. You can modify your behavior patterns. You can be brave. And even if it isn't getting up and saying something, maybe it's doing something, Maybe it's writing an email. Maybe it's taking the person out of that situation. It's not even to say that, for example, the woman at the bar, you don't even necessarily have to confront the woman at the bar. You can just go sit and be an ally with those women and say, hey, how are you guys doing? Are you doing good? Oh, right on. I'm really glad to see you here tonight. Something like that, Make yourself useful. Just follow these few steps next time it arises, okay? We're going to go through them. The first step involves actually noticing there's a problem, okay? Identifying. Is there something going on here that isn't right? Do I need to intervene? Next, you have to decide if what you're witnessing is an emergency. You don't necessarily... It's like, okay, my partner Easy, he can take care of himself, and he knows I can take care of myself. It's not to say that we always have to intervene in each other's situations. We're big kids. But if somebody is needing aid, that's when you want to inject yourself. Next is the most critical decision in the process, deciding to take personal responsibility. That goes back to what I just said, taking the person out of the situation, coming up to them, saying something to the person who's harassing them, things like that. I just belched. I apologize, but goddamn, isn't that so real? Oh, well, we're here now. There you go. Anyways. Decide, what responsibility that you want to take in that action. And then you got to decide what you need to execute. Are you going to talk to the bar owner? Are you going to take this person out of the situation? Are you going to become friends with them? Are you going to say something to the person who is committing the act? It just comes down to identify, make a decision, execute the decision, and follow through. And, that's how change comes about. And I realize that's going to take some change within yourself as well. But honestly, unless you want to go through what we've been going through for the last 4 years in another 4 years, you're going to have to be a part of the solution and not the problem. And by standing there saying nothing is you being a part of the problem. It sounds easier said than done because it is. It takes practice. That's how growth works. So for more information on the bystander effect, you can go to brainfoodblog.com. And for more tips on personal responsibility, check out the Very Well Mind. Over to the Truthful Groomer website. You can talk to me in my discussion forum. The link tree is in the bio on my TikTok and here on YouTube. And it's also in the podcast bio. Check me out on Twitter and Insta, and be sure to also take a gander at the pack on Patreon, where we're discussing we have webinars every week, focus groups. You're a part of a personal Facebook group where we exchange our stories and confidence, and you get to support me. It's pretty cool stuff. I'm also currently collecting testimonials of women in South Dakota who want to share their stories. I'd really love to hear from you. We'll see you guys next time on Bite Me.